What's happening, people? Welcome to another episode of Natty News Daily. This is going to be a fun one because we have the reigning defending WNBF figure world champ on with us tonight, and she's actually competing this weekend. We got to squeak this in right before Worlds, where Edna is going to defend the title again. So, Edna, for those that maybe don't know who you are, give us a quick rundown of what you're all about.
Okay, so I am a pro WNBF figure competitor and bodybuilder. I competed this year at Mayhem. It was only a very small show, unfortunately, but still trying to keep women's bodybuilding alive. I didn't want to step on for figure just because, that's a package that people should wait for anyways. And so I play with, that stuff. And then off season, I do strongman. So if you guys actually follow me on Instagram, my feed is a little bit of everywhere.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm glad you touched on that, because when I was scrolling back through, your athletic repertoire is a little bit more expansive than some.
Yeah, and this year also, it's a big step just to be on stage because I think it was in March. I had a bunch of strongman shows or competitions lined up, and I broke my ankle. And so, yeah, that's
So
also what happened.
This past March, 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And here you are stepping on stage at Worlds.
Yep, broke my fibula and everything. Trying to go for the state record for the axle clean and press.
I was gonna say, we got to know what happened there. So just
Yeah.
the load was too heavy, or was it like a bad fall? What happened?
So it was axle clean and press. So you press it on here, or you do a high pull.
Yep.
You bring it up and then you press overhead, but it slipped out of my hand, fell on my back, fell on my ankle. And so as soon as it fell, 205 broke my ankle.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
What was the recovery process with that?
It was awful. I probably had a pity party for maybe 2 days. Sat on the couch.
I feel like you're entitled to that.
Yeah. Tried to figure out what I was going to do. I pretty much just did upper body for a good amount. I got up to a pretty nice Z press, strict press on overhead press. And then let my ankle heal by itself. It took a few months. And then had to learn how to walk, had to learn how to run. Did a lot of single leg stuff, did BFR, everything you could possibly think of. My coach and I did that for my leg. So it's kind of hard to tell which leg is broken now, which is awesome, but it was emotionally exhausting just because there's so much in line, on the line just for us to recover and have the symmetry that we want.
Oh, for sure.
It's crazy because the injuries are more psychologically difficult than they are physically.
Yeah. Well, I'm also lucky enough to have my degree in performance psychology. So I feel like that definitely played a role on my recovery.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting too, right? In our sport, it's not just the performance we want back, but it's the aesthetic of it, right?
Yeah.
Which is for people that don't participate in bodybuilding, they're like, well, if my leg's a little bit smaller, if it kind of looks a little different, it's not a huge deal. But for us, it's that's all we see.
I'm like, oh my God, my leg. It was rough. My calf was the size of my forearm, and it was hard.
That's crazy. So
Arnold wouldn't be happy.
Yeah. Proportions are way off.
Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit to when you got into bodybuilding then, because obviously you're at the highest level in the sport right now. So what was the lead up to
that? So I started competing in 2014, I believe. Prepped for my first show for maybe 3 months, did NPC. It was okay. Maybe 3 or 4 shows in, got overall, then went to nationals. It was, just like all the natural people competing with people on gear. It was an eye opener. And so, especially having baby muscles still, I was nowhere near the size that I wanted to be. So took a step away from it, did powerlifting, tried to get some size, and then tried strongman, and then took maybe 2 years off from being on stage, and then stepped back on stage, got my pro card, competed at Worlds, I think placed top 5, and then off season again. So I've just been competing here and there, random sports. And then what happened? I think like 2016 or 17, 18, I decided to actually take bodybuilding a little bit more seriously.
Yep.
I just hated hearing the judges like, oh, you have potential, you could be a lot leaner. I'm like, okay, I should probably like,
I'll show
raise
you.
my standard up a little bit. And then, I think that was the end of that. Took a year off, came back, won the world title. And then,
That's
about
crazy.
it.
What is the last, I guess, since that world title win? Because obviously COVID's kind of kiboshed the competitive scene for the last little while. So what's the last, year and a half, 2 years looked like for you?
So I've just been prepping for a strongman comp, but that didn't happen. And so decided to go a little bit off like maintenance and try to just increase my calories. So then when I was on prep, my calories would be a lot higher compared to previous years.
Yep.
Tried to just do a complete body recomp of what my judges' feedback was, which was hamstrings, glutes, probably a little bit of bicep, tricep stuff. So we worked on that and then just pretty much tried to stay strong and try to be aesthetic just because that's the kind of mindset that I have when it comes to just working out in general.
So how does your programming look to balance, like you just said, that strong and aesthetic? So do you have like certain workouts?
My program is a lot different compared to a lot of people. Like for instance, last week, which was before my deload week, I had heavy deads at 85%, so which was 350 for maybe like a 6x6, and I only weigh 130, so my body doesn't like lightweight, and I don't get as, I guess, enjoyment from working out that way either.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
So, and that's usually my typical like workout. So like I try to keep it so my bench is at least 135, my squat is 225, and my deads are 315.
Yep. And then do you start a session with like the heavy compound stuff and then accessory afterwards?
Yep. But my accessories I still also try to keep heavy.
Yep.
Just because that's how I've always trained pretty much.
What do you have to do with regards to cardio? Do you have to do a lot with that style of training to accommodate, or?
No, so I just started adding cardio. That's why it's kind of different. But I have really long days, so I usually wake up early, like at 3 a.m. I teach boot camp classes from like 4 to 9, and then clients, and then workout, and then my day usually ends at like 6. So then my cardio that we just literally added is maybe like 20-30 minutes.
That's manageable then.
Of like biking.
That's even more manageable.
Yeah.
What does nutrition look like at this stage in prep?
Let me see where I'm at. So I haven't really cut my calories that much, so I'm at 1870, which
that's solid.
So my protein is at 185, carbs are at 170, and my fats are at 50. But I still kind of go over once in a while. But
by now
it's not so bad.
Yeah. By now you probably know your body pretty damn well too. So those moments of going over are probably very manageable. Whereas, the newer competitor, that's not something that they have the luxury of doing.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd love to chat about, so I'm thinking of one post. I'm going to say his name because he loves the podcast, Brandon Wadas. In his last off season, he said he wanted to keep being a bodybuilder even the off season. So we're seeing like these camps evolve, right? And we see them in everything. But so this is almost another one, right? So you're a strong woman or strongman competitor in the off season. You do powerlifting in the off season, but you're also a top level bodybuilder. And there are some individuals that would think that transitioning to powerlifting and strength sport in the off season as a motivator almost takes away from your bodybuilding potential. Obviously, we can see anecdotal evidence with you that that's not necessarily the case. Do you feel like you kind of moved towards powerlifting just because that was your interest, or as a way to improve your bodybuilding career?
Well, so I kind of moved to powerlifting first just because off season is kind of boring when you're just doing repetitive stuff and it's not heavy or you're not seeing changes that you want. So at least if I'm lifting heavy and my numbers are increasing, there's
Yeah.
progress there. But then again, still similar to my training currently, it's my compound lift and accessories, and that's pretty much what I've always done.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of the reason why a lot of us do that, transition kind of to a more powerlifting or power building, if you will, style in the off season, because there is that motivation, right? You can chase something because you're no longer chasing that physique, or it's at least harder to see the changes in the physique when you're in the off season, for sure.
Yeah, and I think even if you're not directly powerlifting, I think it's good to kind of chase those goals anyways, and chase more load on the bar and all that fun stuff anyways.
Yeah, I know for me, like the last 2 years, like that kind of, if it's not maybe necessarily a 1 or 2 rep max, but chasing like, a heavy 5 or a heavy 6, or an 8 on a big movement, right? Like, squat, deadlift, bench, like those are all movements that, Edna, you touched on just that pure enjoyment out of it, right? Like I still get buzzed up for every session I can go deadlift because I just have this innate enjoyment out of it. And a deadlift is, like James said, there's camps of people where people argue completely against deadlifts for bodybuilding because they're too fatiguing. You're not getting the stimulus, blah, 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 blah. And like, sure, but I still will argue that a nice 500 or 600 pound deadlift is A, really fun. And B, it's giving me some stimulus, whether you want to call it optimal for bodybuilding or not. It's definitely going to have some carryover in some sense, right? And you're a prime example that, you're doing strongman, you're doing powerlifting, you're doing bodybuilding, and, you're defending the arguably one of the biggest natural figure titles in the sport. So who are we to say what you're doing is wrong?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you think that it's like contributed to your look at all? Like, you have a very, very muscular frame. Like when you hit that front pose, like your shoulders, your lats, like, you've got a lot of muscle. Do you think that style of training has really helped with that per se?
I feel like it's definitely helped with my upper back. If you guys look like previous years, you could tell that it was lacking, and that was because I wasn't really doing a lot of deadlifts. I wasn't really doing a lot of stone work, the high pulls from the axle. Yeah.
High pulls.
I feel like those definitely have contributed to a bigger, more fuller physique. So yeah.
That's the other thing too, right? Like,
let me turn my light on real quick.
Like the stimulus you're gonna get from, a 200-pound high pull versus like a couple like 20-pound dumbbell upright rows or whatever, right? Like it's totally different. And the upright rows, people are gonna say, oh, that's more of a bodybuilding move, but your high pull with the 200-pound is a powerlifting move, but it's definitely building your physique from a bodybuilding perspective in areas that obviously needed to work.
Yeah, for sure.
When it comes to recovery, because obviously that style of training is very physically demanding, do you have any, I don't know, like specific things you do when it comes to recovery and stuff? Like bodybuilding training's, obviously invasive in its own sense, but the amount of load you're moving on a regular basis, comparatively speaking, would be a lot more.
So for recovery wise, I do try to make sure I get enough sleep. And that I am taking like my ZMAs. What else am I taking for sleep?
I'm glad that was the first thing you said.
Yeah, I try to make sure I always do like 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Because I have to wake up early, and I'm really big on like if I have to go to work and people see me at 4 o'clock in the morning, I don't want to be like, hey guys, morning.
Yeah.
I want to make sure they get the good energy that I wish somebody would give me at 3 o'clock in the morning.
No, for sure.
You won't find that good energy out of me, that's for sure. Not that early.
James is not the best sleeper of the bunch.
No. Perpetually not sleeping.
We're working on him.
I'm not going to sleep. Then I also get like body work done, and I try to stay consistent with going to the chiro, just to make sure like I touch all my bases, since I'm
Yep.
trying to do this like for long duration.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
Outside of the leg injury, have you had anything else creep up on you?
Well, a long time ago, which is why I didn't deadlift prior to, I pulled my back doing moss wrestling. You guys ever heard of moss wrestling?
Mhm.
So it's kind
Yeah,
of like
yeah,
you're playing
that's
tug
pretty
of
cool.
war
Yeah.
on a
Oh, is that
board
with your
with,
feet? Your feet?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I pulled my back doing that, but yeah.
I could see that. That sounds like a very back pulling situation.
Oh, it is. It's intense.
So you're a one-time champ. You're going for the two-time. You've won WNBF Worlds. What is next? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to just keep defending the title? Do you want to like venture elsewhere? What do you thinking?
Well, so last maybe like 2 weeks ago, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I did compete in wellness. So I tried that, got overall. So I'm trying to see how I'm gonna do this coming week. But hopefully that'll kind of help me decide what I want to do.
Yep.
Because next year I do want to travel internationally, maybe do like posing seminars for the federation, just so they can see that like, figure is growing. And it really just depends on how I'm posing, if I want to do figure or bodybuilding. And
Right.
then if I'm a little too big for a figure, then maybe I'll do bodybuilding.
I was just thinking, because I'm in kind of a transitional phase.
Yeah.
With wellness, that's something you could actually probably compete in after your season, so to speak. I don't know if that's something you thought of, or that just randomly
Yeah.
popped in my head. So just with the conditioning requirements, I would think, right?
Mhm.
How did you like that class, that division?
Oh, it's very different. It was super girly, it was super flirty, everything I'm not. So I had to practice, and the bathing suit was so little. Definitely stepped out of my comfort zone. But it was cool just to see that, you know how people are when they say like natties can't stick with NPC. It was kind of like, let me
Yeah.
show you real quick. So
It's
it was kind of
interesting.
doing that,
It's interesting we're on this subject matter because we got Kendall on the podcast too, and we were talking about this with him about him trying NPC shows and him talking about wanting to get his IFB pro card, and we're continuing to see. I mean, this is a trend the three of us have witnessed now with people we've talked to about, high level natural athletes just kind of, dabbling in the NPC, obviously still being natural, but kind of showing that like, look, we're not just slouches over here because we're natural, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
It's
been
kind of
like what
sad though.
I was gonna say. There's been like 10 or 12 this year. Not only just compete, but place and place well,
Yeah,
or win. So yeah, it's definitely happening more and more often now.
absolutely.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
had
I
the
just feel like the world. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say there was a nationals lineup where I think 3 or 4 guys were, you know, top drug-free guys.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wonder if
Good.
we'll see it across like certain divisions, right? Like if we see it in, wellness, for example, for the women, and classic physique more so for the guys, where natural athletes can kind of jump in there and make an impact. Because it's not something we'd probably see a lot of bodybuilding just because the size discrepancy. But even figure, right? You said so yourself early on. You jumped in an untested show, and it was just like such
Yeah.
a size
But I feel
difference,
like
right?
now though,
Yeah,
now
true
that I'm
enough.
like, I have more training years,
Yeah.
I feel like it would be interesting to see how that would go.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Do you have any goals within the other sports within like
Well, so
strongman and
for
stuff?
strongman, yeah, I'm waiting for a show. I think I might do one in December. So just so I can qualify for nationals for there, so I can get a pro card there. Or I just want to try to get an Arnold invite again, because last time I was
Oh,
sick
cool.
during my freaking
Oh man.
invitation.
Has there ever been a figure world champ and a national strongman world champ at once?
I don't think so.
Well, we're calling it here on Natty News. Edna will be
Mhm.
that person.
It'll happen.
So I think you mentioned you have some state records, right?
I don't know if there are state records anymore, but
Oh, at
I
one
was
point.
going for that state.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha. What are your best lifts in powerlifting? What are your big three?
Well, so on Halloween while on prep, I actually finally pulled 400.
James,
And
can you
yeah,
pull 400?
Right now, no. Straight up, no. I haven't deadlifted in forever.
Okay.
yeah, I was like, I was chasing
Thanks.
that for a while, so it's pretty nice to actually get it while on prep, just because people always assume you can't be strong
Well,
while you're cutting.
especially at your body weight, right?
Mhm.
Like relative strength, that's insane.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Over triple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's nuts.
So you pulled 4. What a bench squat? What have you done there?
So my bench, just like a touch and go, is probably like 185. And then my squat, like the highest that I've had it, post injury, I think I only tried for 300, but the most ever was probably 330.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And what about for strongman? Like, what are some numbers that, like, I don't know strongman completely as well as powerlifting, but like, what have you done in strongman that's number wise?
So for my axle clean and press, I can press 205 overhead.
Wow.
And
That's
then
impressive.
yeah, and then for my log that I randomly joined, I did like a static monster competition. Yeah, so that's international. It's like a worldwide comp that they do, just like the log press and axle deadlift. I got 170 or 175 for that. Um, and it's a lot more of technique just because it's like an actual log you roll on your body.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's
then
the
like
one
because
thing.
It's huge. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the one thing about strongman, like to watch it, it's not just a feat of like, you're not just throwing it around, right? It's a very, very skill oriented sport.
yeah, it's fun too. I actually prefer it more than powerlifting just because it's not so static, and
Right.
the events are always different. So it kind of it forces me to stay athletic during prep. Just because, people are like, oh, you're a bodybuilder, you're probably so stiff. Like,
Yeah.
can you even reach this? I'm like, actually, yeah, because I still do yoga, I still stretch, I run, I sprint, I do all that stuff still. So
You're like the ultimate athlete then.
I try.
Have you ever done like Spartans or Tough Mudders or anything like that?
No, I was going to do a Tough Mudder with my brother, but it just never got around to it.
Who do we contact to get Edna on American Ninja Warrior?
I was thinking the same thing.
I'm not
Can we
kidding.
sponsor that?
Yeah. Yeah. You just,
I'd be down.
you'll have to wear the Natty News logo on like your t-shirt.
Yeah.
I'm down for it.
So figure world
That'd
champ,
be fantastic.
strongman champ, American Ninja Warrior champ, and first woman on Mars. That's what we're aiming for here.
We're gonna do it.
Cool.
Elon, if you're watching,
Yeah, Elon Musk. If you're just chilling right now,
if you're watching Natty News,
Can you imagine? That'd be sweet.
oh my god.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. So what's today? Monday of recording this. You're 5 days out from Worlds. Where are you at mentally? How do you feel? Give us a quick little rundown.
So this morning, I think it was probably like the roughest day of prep so far. I did get a dunk test on Sunday, like the hydrostatic dunk test, so it was like much more accurate compared to the in-body scans. And I wasn't too sure what my body fat percentage was, and when I actually got it, it kind of made sense as to why I was getting tired. So the fatigue's definitely starting to kick in,
Right.
but trying to just keep my momentum going since it's only a couple more days. But other than that, I feel like it's just a normal day. I'm just tired.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're gonna
Yeah.
go.
Yes.
You're gonna go win.
Yeah, that's
All right.
that's the plan.
There we go.
Hopefully,
You guys heard it
I'm just
here.
gonna execute, do whatever I need to.
Yep.
I took in the judges' feedback, so if they say I'm too lean, that's kind of on them because
They wanted
that's
you
the
lean.
feedback I got. Yeah.
That's right. Awesome, Edna. Well, thank you for coming
I
on.
do have a couple
Oh.
questions from the Instagram if we have time.
Oh yeah, fire them up.
Yeah, 'cause I did put that up. So I think I know the answer. The first one you already kind of covered it. What has your biggest obstacle been this year? Is that your ankle?
Yep.
Would you say?
Ankle recovery.
Okay, so we covered that one. So the other one is I think this is a good one. What are you most proud of on and off stage?
Most proud of. I probably would say like my mindset on and off stage, just because it it's allowed me to grow into like the person that I am. That's like, just as an athlete, as a coach, just a person in general. But like, especially with my ankle injury, because I want to say it only took me a couple of months to actually be like, okay, this is possible, stay consistent with it. If I had a different mindset, I definitely feel like I would still not be able to walk or even be on stage this weekend.
Yeah, something that traumatic, right? Like that's not just a bum shoulder. Like that's a big injury.
No, it was rough. Like I needed assistance to get in the shower, out the shower, up the stairs, down the stairs. I couldn't drive because it's my right ankle. Yeah, it was a lot.
I mean, especially as an athlete like yourself, I mean, you take pride in, being very functional in your, not just your day-to-day life, but well beyond that. And I'm sure
Yeah, absolutely.
that was difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, having to ask for help and having to rely on other people was definitely hard just because I'm so independent and I take pride in that.
Yeah. No, for sure. Anything other there, Dan, you got?
Those are the two I got. I
Cool.
threw it up late, but you got a couple more.
That's all right. That's all right. I think this was a good chat. I think this was very insightful for, not only bodybuilders in general, but I think a lot of female athletes will get some good context out of this and learn a thing or two.
Sorry. Yeah.
Which will be good. Edna, where can people find you on social media and all that good stuff?
Just Instagram. I'm really bad at social media.
That's all right. What's the Instagram handle again?
Edna Mode.
Perfect. All right, people, you heard it there. Give her a follow, show her some support as she heads into Worlds this weekend. And again, Edna, we thank you for coming on, and we give you all the support from Natty News.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Edna.
All
Good
right.
luck.
People, if you
Thank
enjoyed the
you.
episode, give it a like, subscribe to the channel for future ones. And we'll see you guys in the next one.